I was born in the field. The dirt is my only home. Then the place is a band. They call me Righteous Mom. I've been through the edge, I've been all through the west, and the word on the trail, they love my small bed. Yeah, on fire. Yeah, I'm on fire. Right. To the righteous one, gonna set your soul on fire. Yeah, well. Like a beautiful lady, like all the money in the world, come take my hand and watch your dreams unfold. Yeah, on fire. Yeah, I'm on fire. Right. To the righteous one, gonna set your soul on fire. Oh, yeah, well.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the very, very first edition of Buffalo Late Night. I am Thomas, and just wanted to introduce some very, very special guests we have this evening. We have very first person, Joe Miller. You probably know Joe Miller from the Overreaction Sports podcast. He's also a contributor on Buffalo Rumblings. It's a very popular space, as Kristen Kimmick is also a contributor on Buffalo Rumblings and a very, very, very important person, as she is the president and founder of Bills Mafia Babes, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a 501c3 and does wonders for women in sports, something that I'm hoping takes shape in the near future. We also have Kevin Massar from Cover One Sports. And he also does a little bit in the Going Deep podcast. You can check him out there. And then finally, but absolutely not last, somebody a lot of people know, Leslie Wiley. She is the co-founder of Bills Mafia. She's got a rap sheet a mile long. She is a absolute killer doula. She's the treasure of Bills Mafia Babes. And if you're out and about in the Buffalo nightlife, you might see her on DTO show. She is a wonderful singer. So that's our little grouping tonight. I'm glad to have all of you here this evening.
Yeah, you went big on the first episode. You swung for the fences.
gotta get some of my favorites out there, man. I've had some great relationship for a lot of you for a long time. Joe, I've been much newer than the others. Leslie, I met at the very first tweet up for Bills Mafia 10 years ago.
Wow.
Kristen and I think our paths have crossed in numerous ways. And then Kevin and I just been following him and his wife's journey as my wife and myself have been kind of in an infertility lifestyle. So it's nice to kind of see other people in that same boat. Not nice, but that you can kind of connect with. But aside from all of that, tonight's show's awesome. I'm excited to kind of bring this to the table. Hope to get this going. The big thing tonight, obviously, with many of us is we got that survey, or some of us did, some of us didn't. And with that survey, stadium information. But I'm going to throw that to the back burner because the big news today is the Buffalo Bills are hosting the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football, Week 2, 7:05. So what I want to post here, because what came out is that the Bills were the only team of the teams that were announced that didn't state it as being their home opener. So what I want to do is I'm going to go around to each one of you and find out if, in fact, the Bills do host a Week 1 matchup at home. Who do you want to see and why? So, Leslie, let's start with you.
Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties on my end. Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm. We've got you.
Okay, so who do I want to see and why? I'd honestly love to see the Dolphins at home to start the season.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. I would love a division game to start the season.
Okay. Kevin, what are we thinking?
I still think it's tough to think that they're not going to get the LA game in LA. So I know there's rumblings about the home opener and everything else, but the NFL was already promoting the Diggs versus Ramsey matchup. So to me, I still think it could potentially be on the road in LA Thursday night. So that's what I got going on, by the way. It's
going to be interesting. I'm not sure whether or not they'd throw it to that because Mike North, who does the scheduling, he did a podcast with Sal Capaccio. And one point that they kept bringing up is they didn't want to use all their assets because they know the Bills and the Rams are going to draw. So do they want to use it in that opening night when they know everyone's going to be watching that first game? I agree. I think it'd be a killer start. You're talking Josh Allen versus the Super Bowl champions. So, Kimmick, what are we going with?
So first of all, I'm just getting my voice back, so I'm sorry about that.
Well, that's right, Miss Birthday Girl.
Why did you lose your voice? What happened this weekend?
There's a slight party on Friday, and I've still been struggling to get that voice back ever since. But
it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Right. But I'm actually, and I also think it would be the Dolphins, but in an act to not copy Leslie here, I would also really like to see Cincinnati at home with them coming off the Super Bowl. I think that would be a really interesting hot matchup for Week 1.
Okay. And Joe.
So I'm kind of in the same boat as Kevin is. And Kevin, nice to meet you. So this is the first time Kevin and I have ever interacted together. I kind of know those two girls down there a little bit. But for all intents and purposes, as much as the Bills came out today and said that we're going to announce our home opener on the 12th or whatever that was, I'm calling the bluff on that. I don't know if it's going to be the Bills and the Rams, just because I'm not sure that they're going to give the Bills 2 primetime games back to back. They might not. If I had to pick who I wanted, it probably would not be the Dolphins, only because I want to see the Dolphins in January. I don't want to see the Dolphins in September. I think if you look back at the history, I remember from being a kid and watching, generally speaking, if I'm not mistaken, Don Shula was on some committee with the NFL way back in the day, either their competition committee or something like that. And he always worked it out so the Dolphins would be in Buffalo in September and the Bills had to go to Miami late in the season. For me, though, knowing those records and the times that the Dolphins come here and win early, give me the Dolphins in January because those dudes do not want to be here. So if I had to pick a team, I'd take the Patriots. I'd take the Bengals. That was a good pick. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of games I would pick, but I don't know that I would want the Dolphins. That's just me.
I tend to agree. If they didn't do the division, man, I would love to see maybe like a 425 Packers game in Buffalo Week 1.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to start strong, let Josh just get going and silence the doubters.
Can we just talk about, and I've already called Sterling, I've called like John Fina, I've called several people that like if we get back-to-back home games, so home opener and then that Monday night game, that people are gonna have to come to Buffalo for like a week and a half because it's gonna be a week and a half of mayhem.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure LaShawn German's going to have to move here eventually,
Right,
because
exactly.
he's just going to be back and forth each week.
Yeah.
Or
I
he's
really
just going to
think
bring
it is
people.
gonna be I think it is going to be a home game for the opener, because looking at the dates on that, the season opener would be Thursday, September 15th.
Right.
So that would be if we did play LA, and I wanted LA so bad as the season opener, Bills LA, but that would be on Thursday and we would be in LA, and they would have to ship us back for Monday on the 19th, 4 days later. And I just don't know if I see the league doing that or
No,
not.
the opening week would be the 8th. It'd be the Thursday after Labor Day. Labor Day is the 5th. It'd be the 8th, and then the first week of the season, or the first
Yeah, you
Sunday
get extra.
would be the
You
11th.
get extra time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It'd be
All
the
right,
11th. It'd be the 11th. So
Yeah, that game's super early.
Yes.
That kickoff game's always super. We just never really play it.
Yeah,
but
so
it's super early.
the Monday night game would be the 19th, which is still summertime in Buffalo.
Right.
I'll be wearing a t-shirt.
Can't wait.
Or no
Yeah,
shirt.
it's going to be nice in general, considering the last game that we had in the stadium. I'm not sure any of us could feel any parts of our bodies at any given point, so it'll definitely be intriguing. Okay, so let's get into this. So obviously, as most people know, the stadium is a big hot button topic, and they sent out a survey. And as Joe mentioned on his podcast yesterday, not everybody got it. Some season ticket holders got it. Some people who have never been to a Bills game got it, and in fact, some people who just bought single game tickets got it. So it was kind of a weird algorithm in terms of what they sent it out. But if you were able to do something with the Bills and Ticketmaster in terms of your personal email, then you could actually get the link, type your email in, and then access that survey. That survey was sent out by Legends. Legends is the company owned by Jerry Jones and the late George Steinbrenner. So that's who they're working with, and Populous. So that's obviously you got two different varying sides. Populous has Joe, you probably know. I'm blanking on his name. The ex-Buffalo Bills player who works for Populous.
I actually don't, but myself or your back in the back of the house producer Ian could probably Google that.
That's very true. Side note, my brother Ian is the producer of this show. Big shout out to him. He's doing a lot of legwork for a 34-year-old, apparently not very technically savvy person. So needless to say, did some research. Tim Graham, who I absolutely respect, posted a phenomenal article on The Athletic. And he had some bits about the actual pricing. You had the cheapest, which the PSLs were $600, all the way to the very tippy top, the super bougie, which was a 16-seat suite, which cost $347,000. So it's definitely a wide gap. But what I want to do, since I know Kevin has very limited time, is want to start off with you, Kev, and kind of find out. I know you've done a bunch of research with Cover One. What you found out in terms of the stadium survey, expected pricing, kind of what you've kind of delved into and what you know.
It's all across the board, right? So I think the biggest thing to remember about PSLs in general, so obviously the Bills will be implementing a PSL strategy, is the idea there, at least at a high level, is to reduce ticket prices. It's to help out if you're going to pay a PSL. The idea there is hopefully you're not supposed to jack up the prices too much. That's like the initial fundamental principle of it, as well as help fund the stadium in general. So you have those kind of different philosophies. And also you're going to have access to all the events at the stadium at, not Bills related. You're going to have first dibs on, the Eagles or, whoever is touring. You're going to have access to those and hopefully be able to either buy those or buy them and put them on the market as it's your PSL. So that's like something to remember. And also transferable in nature is interesting to me because you should be able to recoup that money if you need to. So just some of the initial strategies to me are interesting. I think that they have to do whatever they can to keep those prices down. I was a little sticker shocked by them, to be honest. I thought they were a little bit high, but at the same time, it's like, what are we going to do? right? So it's like, as an organization, what are the Bills? They're really, I'll give them credit for trying. You guys might have a little bit better insight into how much you feel that they are trying with this, but I'll give them credit for like really trying to see different avenues, how they can make this affordable, but at the same time, how do they make money in order to fund this stadium that they are on the hook for a lot of money still. So that's something to remember, is that like at face value, it looks like, they're getting a lot of money from the state, but they still have to come up with a lot, and they're leasing it back. That's the biggest thing to remember. They're leasing it back from the state. So they need to generate those PSLs in order to make those payments. So to me, I thought it was high. I'll just, kind of sum all that up by saying I thought it was a little bit high, but, I get reminded by my friends, like I'm going on a pretty popular Jet show next, and I get reminded all the time about, how affordable and how lucky we are. So that's the biggest thing to remember, is I have Patriots fans, friends, very few of them that are tolerable. But they also remind you that, like, we can't even go to the games. Like, there's just no way. We can't afford them. So to me, I thought they did an okay job, but it is a sticker shock for us. It's considering someone who had season tickets in the rock pile for $400.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I think they're trying. So the original numbers that we heard were $20,000 seat licenses, and there were huge swaths of the stadium that were $20,000. And then it was like, but you can finance it, interest free for the first 3 years. You could, and then if you want to do interest, it'll go 5, 10, 20, 30 years. I don't advise anybody to mortgage their private seat licenses. So we've seen those numbers trickle down. And I think the highest one that there was like 13 grand or 15 grand. And it was for more of like club seating type stuff. They've also now, where we were originally told that the entire area between the 40s on behind the Bills was going to be all clubs. And now, and I talked about this on the show last night, now there's two options where some of those are clubs and some of those are what they call standard seating or reserve seating, which I would call standard season tickets. I don't think for the average fan, myself included, depending on where you sit, if you were sitting in the upper deck, if you're sitting kind of in that rock pile area that we have now, the corner end zone, the end zones, just different places like that, which is probably not necessarily considered a premium seat, even though, to be honest with you, where I sit, I would consider my seat a premium seat, row 1 on the 27-yard line of the upper deck. I've got amazing seats. It's not going to be too much of a climb for me to get back to that spot, to the point that, like, I would even consider mezzanine level seats. Leslie can talk about the fact that she's between the 40s in the lower bowl. And for her, displacement is a real thing, right?
Yeah, for me, based on what I saw in that survey, I'm probably getting priced out of my seats. I've had season tickets almost 20 years, and it's taken about that long to move to where I sit now, which is on the 50-yard line in the 100 level. So it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow, to put that kind of time and money in to move over that far and then get priced out of those seats.
Right.
But
Yeah, and I think the tough part is right now is that we only know where kind of an overview level as to what the expectation is at this point. And I know it's tough because as fans, we're hoping for the best, but when you see photos of the Pegula's, giant yacht, the expectation is, they're gonna play, we're paying the PSLs, so they're not footing the bill. It'll be interesting to see, but it is definitely tough.
Can we stop for a second, Thomas? We're talking about a giant yacht that probably costs $65 million. It's a long ways away from 1.4 billion.
Oh no, 100%, and I am right there with you.
The Pegulas, even though Terry's worth 5.4 billion, he's not liquid. He doesn't have safes in his basement filled with $100 bills. He doesn't have that money. As much as people think he does, he's got it tied up in assets, in land and reserves and things like that. He's very wealthy, but he's not liquid cash, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So
absolutely. And I think my point to this was not so much as just to slander the Pegulas, because I think what they've done for the city of Buffalo is immeasurable. I think it's more of in the sense of when you see that, and then you see somebody like Leslie, or like the chefs, or Pinto Ron. You have these people, these long-term fans.
Bill's Elvis isn't wealthy either. I mean, right?
Right. Yeah, and so it's going to be intriguing to see what happens. I know one thing that they mentioned, because I know Tottenham Stadium could very well be maybe a kind of an ideal footprint as to what they're looking at.
Yeah.
There's kind of an inclined end zone area at that stadium, and that's where they get a lot of their noise. So I have a feeling that you might see that replicated because I know they mentioned they want this to be a huge home field advantage. That you might see that, and I don't know if they're trying to push fans into that to try to get people there. I'm not sure how they're going to circumnavigate, long-term fans moving to different sections. But Kristen, got to ask you, for another long-term or a long-time season ticket holder, what is your thoughts on the outline pricing? I know, you spent a long time going with your father. What does it mean to you to potentially, will this impact where you're sitting? What's your plan with what you've seen and what you're thinking going forward?
I actually was one of the ones that I didn't get the survey, so I have no idea. But you're in the same section as I am. So have you seen ballpark what we're looking at?
I can tell you what they are. I can tell you what they are. Where are you at, Kristen?
I'm in 108. Yeah.
108. What yard line are you on?
She's in 34. I'm in 32.
Yeah.
34, 32. So yard line. So a seat located between the 40s and 25s on the lower level. Seat coverage, none, which is a conversation because we were told that almost all the seats would be covered, if you remember that. Heating, none. Annual season ticket price per seat, $2,080. So $2,080 per seat. Personal seat license, one-time fee per seat, $4,850.
I mean, sticker shock, right? But I mean, really what that means to me is less away games. Right now it's like I basically have a Bills fund, and all of my this is my main hobby, all of my play money for the year goes into this Bills fund, and then I just try to allocate that. So like off the top comes my seasons, and then whatever is left, I already know like what I'm budgeted for this season. So when the schedule drops on Thursday, I just go and buy the most expensive, what will shoot up to be the most expensive flights, and start there and see how many of the games I can knock out. But with the season ticket prices going up like that, that's gonna take me away from most of the away games.
Yeah, that was one thing that got me when I looked at the section I sit in now, was not only the PSL, but the ticket price itself is nearly doubling based on that survey.
Right.
Yeah, and if I can find it, just to give everybody some reference on what Leslie's speaking about, just give me a second as I'm noodling through my slides that were sent to me right here. A seat located between the 40s on the lower level. So if you sat at the 48 or the 49, no seat coverage, no heating. Annual season ticket price per seat $2,510, and then the personal seat license is $5,950. So
yeah, right now my tickets are around $1,500, I think.
Right.
So it's quite an increase.
For one, right? It's $1,500 for one. Yeah. Yes. I think I pay 12. I think I pay either 11 or 12.
Yeah, I think we're around 11.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely. I think the one thing that shocked me, because I know it was mentioned by Ron Rakuya, was the overhead coverage, like you said, Joe, and then some type of radiant heat. And it, if you are getting a new stadium, part of that is, you're taking care of the fans and having that overhead dome, or not a dome, but some type of kind of a lip to the top of the stadium. And, with that extra price that you're seeing, like mine, when I looked at it, I want to say it went up $2,100 for all 4 seats. My wife and I have 4. And then with the PSLs, I think it was I thought it was 7,000. I might've been, mistaken in where I looked, but somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 per seat. Which with the 7,000 was about $70 a month if you financed it over 30. So it's tough when you're looking at that with the price point, and then you don't also possibly get those things that the expectation. I think what it's going to come down to is, what exactly are we getting for what we're paying for? Because obviously that's the big thing. When you're buying a car, you kind of go in, or buying a house, you have certain expectations of what you'd like to see. Obviously, not everything's going to be perfect. When you're buying
a
pre-owned house
of the property there, that's kind of the idea of PSLs in general. So hopefully, if you are that type of mindset of that, you can have first rights at different events. So that's their idea. I'm not saying it's a great idea or it's amazing feature, but that's definitely the thought there, is that you guys would have all rights to that seat and be able to turn it. And if it's a good seat. To
Kevin's point, and they are, you could kind of consider them assets. I don't know that I've ever seen or heard of somebody selling their PSL. I don't know if they're going to, if they are going to, go up in price. The problem that I have with all of this, and I talked about it yesterday, is like an 8-seat mini suite on the suite level on the sideline, which is actually up above the first deck. The annual price per suite is $131,000 or $132,000 for the suite for the entire season. 16 grand for one seat for the whole season. No PSL. Why are they not going after those guys for the PSLs and dropping the PSLs for us, the everyday average Joe fan? That's the question that I have, right? That's what seems a little strange to me.
You can actually broker your PSL. So the idea there is that you can actually make, have you seen the movie Fever Pitch where he's trying to sell his seats? That's kind of that's really watered down, but that's kind of the idea there, is that it is like a chunk of and he has a contract. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that movie. This is obviously Fenway, but obviously that's the same type of thing you'd have the ability to do.
So Dave, we got Dave King here with a comment, and he said, thoughts on how the prices might spike with additional successes that the Bills might have, considering they're the team to beat. I got priced out of my seats. It's tough to say right now because obviously we are 2026. The finish line is September 2026. So I mean, we've got a solid 4 years. And obviously the expectation, Josh is in year 5, that would put him at that point at year 9 or going into year 9, I believe year 9. Ideally, yes, he would be in the prime years of his career. It's hard to say, I think with most teams, you do see a gradual change. Like Kevin said, and I've seen this in multiple articles, the idea behind the PSL is to soften the blow of those massive incremental changes in your ticket prices. So ideally that would be the case, but like with anything, it's hard to say. We've seen increases in the past couple of years because the Bills have, had sustained success. So it's hard to say. I don't know if anybody has a specific, perspective on this.
I've had so the tickets have been in my family since 76, which is actually a fun story. My grandfather actually got them at the Rock Pile, and then the Bills were bad, so he let them go, I think in 73 when they moved to Rich Stadium, to the Ralph, and then he got them again in 76 because he missed them. So technically our seniority goes back to 76. I've been buying since 97. I would much rather pay more money for a winning team than what I paid to watch them lose all the freaking time. Give me a winner and give me a promise and a guarantee that they're going to be in Buffalo my entire lifetime for the next 30 something years. What is it? 34 years, 33 years. They're going to be in Buffalo. Give me that.
You bought a peace of mind. That's
right.
That's kind of what everyone's paying for. And if the talks would have been real if they got kind of contentious. The talks would have been real to San Diego, to Austin. The talks would have been real because, quite frankly, teams will pay for, or cities will pay for the Bills.
Oh yeah,
they will.
Oh yeah.
So
sure. especially this franchise that's winning, right? That has,
especially now more than ever,
up and to the right.
It would have been contentious. And like a PSL example, like the Ravens at one point were $3,000 PSLs. They're now selling on the market for $9,000.
Oh, there you go. That's what I was looking for. That's the information I was looking for. Like, what are they selling?
Something to consider that.
Yeah.
To that question earlier about the
second market value.
Second market,
yeah.
not second market. So that stadium has been there for a while. Brokers, he said. So I've had my tickets for 10 years. I'm ready to move out, or we're going to move to Florida, and I'm going to sell them. They're selling for.
You don't just lose them like you do now.
Right.
Like you just give them up. Someone else buys them. I can actually list them on the market and then get rid of them. And it's a thing.
Unless it's COVID and you decide not to buy them, then you lose all your seniority and your tickets.
Right.
It sounds horrible.
But it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do what's best for your family. If that, you got to consider money, COVID, everything. I mean, it is.
Right.
It was what it was. But that's the biggest thing is that like that investment. It is like you said. It's an ass. I mean, it really is. Like there's people that have basically gotten their money back from selling their PSL. If that is something you'd like to do and move on. And what you bought it in at today is certainly not what it's going to be in 25 years. If that's when your family decides to move from those potentially great seats, a lot of you here have.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to interrupt the conversation, folks, but I do have to head out.
Leslie, it was great to see you.
So,
Leslie, thank you so much.
Nice seeing you, Leslie.
Take care.
Bye.
So I was able to get the information. Scott Radishek, he played for the Bills from 87 to 89. He works for Populous. He is actually one of the main guys in terms of working hand in hand with Rakuya, the Pagulas, to kind of build a Bills style stadium, because that's been a big thing. I actually have a quote here from Ron Rakuya. He said, "We're always very aware of the market limitations and not overpricing our fans, especially move into a new stadium. PSLs are an integral part of every new stadium construction project. They will be a part of our project as well, but we will never get to the point where we price out our fans at attending our games. As I said earlier, the most important thing for us is to create the best home field advantage we possibly can." I think that's something that is interesting, that they keep kind of circling back to that fan element, what they're going to do. Because one thing I did want to bring up to you, Joe, is you had stated that 60 to 62,000 is the expectation. One thing I have heard
60.
is,
I think it was 60. 72 is the current number. 60 is the expected new number.
right. So here's one thing I have heard, and I know this is something that's new to stadiums, is they might have a fan deck where you might have same day tickets, where it's kind of like standing room only or a party deck. And I know those can range from about 5,000 to 7,000 tickets. So that'd be an intriguing part to add to this. Is there anything that you guys have seen, heard, or are interested in yourself as for a fan aspect, or something that you'd like to see in regards to, like, seeing a different price point?
We could probably go around, because I think we all have different hot points or things that we want to see. For me, I don't care about social areas. I don't care about bars. I went to a game in Cincinnati. I've been to several games to see the Bills play in Cincinnati, and one of them I was in the end zone right on the rail, and I could look over and see like the area where 1,000 people are standing there not watching the football game. And to me, I'm just sitting there going, why would you pay $100 for a ticket or whatever you paid and $12 for a beer and not watch the football game for 3 hours? Like, I want to watch social. Kristen Kimmick can tell you this. Social time happens before the game and after the game. During the game, let's play football. Let's watch football. So I think we're all going to have different. Would I be willing to go in if I didn't have season tickets and buy a standing room only seat? Probably. Especially if I couldn't get in. The question is how many can they pack in? What are the sight lines? Where are they at? If it's a standing room only seat at the top of the 300s or the top of the upper deck, no thanks for me. Like, I don't want to be a mile away from the field. It's funny how if you go from row 1, if any of you have ever sat in the upper deck, if you go from row 1 to row 30, and I think there's 50 rows, it's a big difference. Like, row 1, you feel like you're on top of the field. At row 25, they look like ants. It's like, what number was that guy? Who's got the football? So it's just different. But I don't know, Kristen or Kevin, if you guys have an idea.
I'll jump in real quick, then I have to take off, guys. It was a pleasure being here. And for me, I agree. Like, I'm someone that doesn't even like to go to the bathroom during gameplay. Like, I don't I have to monitor like down and distance and like do calculations in my head. Like, if the odds I'm going to miss something are low, like that's when I'll make the determination. Certainly not going to wait in line places to do things during the game. But yeah, like, realistically, you're tailgating, you're having a good time, you're hanging out with your friends. You might not be sitting with them, so you want to hang out with them. I need concourse space. I do need bathroom amenities. I don't want to wait there. I do want good restaurants and food. As a Yankees fan myself, I'm used to being able to have like kind of going to Yankee Stadium and having some of those nicer elements. And I'd love to see that in a $1.6 billion stadium. As you going up in value, I'd like to see that higher end stuff if I'd like to get something to eat. But I certainly don't want to wait during gameplay for it. But like to Joe's point, I'm not spending time in line getting a $12 beer. I'm there to have a good time, watch the game. I probably did what I needed to do in the pregame, and I'm ready to go. So with that being said, Joe's great being on. Kristen, awesome meeting you as well.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I will see both of you around. And Thomas, thanks again, and I appreciate it. We'll catch you guys later.
Thank you again, Kevin.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Everybody's busy on this Monday night.
I'm right in line with you guys on that. Personally, I'm 5'1", right? So the standing room only thing, that's never going to be a thing for me because unless I'm on the rail, I'm not seeing anything. I'm looking at the guys back in front of me.
Vertically challenged.
Yeah, right. So like with that, I could care less about that. I mean, even if I got priced out of having seasons entirely, I'm never going to get a standing room only ticket. Similarly, I'm also aligned with Kevin that like I time when I go to the bathroom and I time, if I can't find a good time to go get a drink, then I'm just not going to go get a drink. Like I'm there to watch the game and see what's going on. And I guess that being said, I would like it to be a little bit steeper again, because of the height issue, because 9 times out of 10, when the guy in front of me stands up currently, he's right here. And
Yeah.
it's like I spend the entire game on my tiptoes because Bills fans, we never sit down. So,
Right.
but
I'm
yeah,
actually hoping it's steeper as well, because if it's steeper, it's going to bring, if I get in the mezz level, or if I get in the upper deck in the first row, which is where I want to be, a steeper lower bowl means I'm going to be closer, because it's going to pull all those upper decks in tighter. So I'm
Right.
actually for that as well. We'll see. Right.
Yeah,
That's been a big thing with the Tottenham Stadium as well, is they kind of have that incline or that kind of bowl type shape. And I know they a lot with Seattle Stadium as well. I know they've used that as kind of an idea as to what they're looking at. I know me personally, I know the big thing is the big concourse. In the middle,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of getting stuck in traffic, whether it's at work. I mean, I'm a mailman and I'm in a truck all day stuck in traffic. I don't like being stuck in the concourse. It's quite claustrophobic, to be honest with you, especially when you've got a lot of people just standing around talking and drinking. Bigger concourses. I'd love to see the Atlanta model where you have more affordable price options. I think it's already tough enough for a lot of people, especially, like if, Leslie does bring her kids, paying all those prices for her kids. You're talking 3 hot dogs. You're talking $30, $40 right out of the gate, not including drinks, not including Toby, her husband. That's a lot of money for a family of 5. To bring that down to a little bit more affordable option, but also, like Kevin said, better food. And I think they've started. They brought Lenovo in. You're seeing better options, but at that same time, I feel like that needs a little more, refining, a little tooling. The other thing I'd like to see is more fan interaction. I think getting the fans involved in the game, I think, is crucial. Being Bills Mafia is such a big thing. Actually, side note, I've seen this in a lot of soccer stadiums. I would love if they wrote Bills Mafia on the seats, or had a giant buffalo across the other side. I think that branding would be really, really beautiful, but it also would make Bills Mafia feel like it is, in fact, their home. But yeah, I think engagement for fans would be huge. And then the one other thing that I said was they need better cell service and Wi-Fi at the games, because I'll tell you, it is brutal on game day trying to get in touch with anybody or do anything on your cell phone.
Thomas, how old are you?
I am 34.
So 10 years ago, it was nearly impossible to get a cell signal.
It was awful.
At least you could kind of get a cell signal now. 12 years ago, it was impossible. There was no getting a cell signal.
And it's funny is I had season tickets in 2011, back when Fitz, led us against the Patriots. And it was unbearable. It was nauseating.
Put your phone away. It's like, I'm not going to use it. Unless it's 4th down, then you can use your phone because nobody else is on their phone.
Right. I really want one thing too, though, and I don't know if they'll be able to do it without us having like the dome or the roof or ceiling or whatever you want to call it. I would love like the centralized centered jumbotron.
Oh, right.
That you don't always have to be looking, both directions. You can still stay looking at the field, but just let your eyes shift up.
Yep.
That would be really cool.
Or
too.
even SoFi, it's a ring, so that it's instead of it being in the center and you're looking at the outside, it's a ring around the outside, and you're looking at the inside of the ring. Right. Is where you're looking, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of things that they could do. It'll be interesting to see. There's so much speculation, and there's so much things that we can infer, and we can bridges we can try to cross in our own minds. Like with the whole all-inclusive thing. Like there were tickets. They were really expensive that the food was a la carte, and there were tickets that were less expensive that were all inclusive. And I'm like, I don't understand. As I was going through it, I didn't understand that kind of stuff. The problem with better food is you're going to pay more money. So, right. I mean, Lloyd's Taco shows up, and now you're paying whatever it is for a burrito, $12 or $15 for a burrito. It's just, to me, I eat before I go to the game. I'm not going to buy a $7 hot dog.
Right. Same. I mean, at the tailgate,
Right. I want good food, but I want it to be affordable. And we already know that it's not going to be affordable as far as that goes. So yeah, I'm just excited that we're getting a stadium. I hope the phrase that comes from me that I hear people repeat back to me, because they say, Joe, I agree with you 100%. We don't need a Crystal Palace for the wealthy. That's kind of a phrase that I've coined. Like, we don't need a Crystal Palace for the wealthy. What we need is a football stadium. Because if you go to certain stadiums that have gotten destinations that have gotten new stadiums, Indianapolis is a perfect example. They priced all their fans out, and those fans kind of suck. I mean, imagine going to a Bills game and it's all rich elite people that are trying to eat fancy food in very big fat comfy chairs, and they're not cheering on third down. And the
Like going
cheering,
to a Sabres game, everybody's gonna be sitting down and like,
right.
you know.
Right, exactly. Who wants that? And so there's an aspect of a culture that's been built here. I mean, right now we are being we have always been one of the greatest, if not the greatest, fan bases in the country for the NFL. Always. But now, because of Josh Allen, because of Ryan Fitzpatrick going to football games and taking his shirt off, because of what's going on, we are now recognized as they said it on Good Morning Football last week that we are the number one fan, like the best fan base in all of the NFL. And we've always been this way. This isn't new. The league is just now learning about us because we have a winning football team. And to take that away from us because of money or opportunity to make money in club seats or owner suites or whatever you want to call them, luge seats, I don't know what, or lounge seats. Somebody corrected me today on how they're supposed to be pronounced. I still don't get it. They just like big couches. If you're going to give me a big couch, I don't want to pay $8,000 for it, but it looks fun.
Yeah, it's definitely I mean, you see the Miami game, and Miami has they have a lot of those like lower level suite type of seats. The bigger ones are cushy. They've got, almost like table service where you can have a waiter come to you and bring your beer.
Right.
And it's nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. Would I love to have my drinks brought right to my side? Absolutely. Especially the Bills game, because it's exhausting to get there and exhausting to get back. But you're right. Fostering a certain type of relationship or a certain type of atmosphere that we've built, especially as of recently, because I mean, you saw, for 25 years, I mean, it was suffering for this fan base. And even throughout it all, you're still packing the stadium in the worst of nights. A lot of us were there for that 6-3 Browns game, and that was hard enough to stomach. But now you go back to this, where you've got your winning ways. That I think is the prayer and the hope, is that they don't go and they flip the tables on us, no pun intended, and make it so that you can't afford to be there. Because I don't, as much as the Buffalo Bills are Buffalo, I don't think the Buffalo Bills are what Buffalo is without the fans.
Right.
There is a very intrinsic and very I want to say like cathartic feeling when you've got fans. I mean, you saw it 2 years ago when there was no fans in the stadiums for any stadium during COVID, especially in Buffalo. It was very weird. You saw that across all different sports, but I feel like in football, it was very eerie. And then once you saw them come back, it was a changing of a guard again, where fans were ready. It was almost like a pent up aggression to let it go.
I remember I did a big show on it because Jay Spence and I went to the Colts game, the playoff game, the first game that allowed fans for Buffalo that year. And there's not many teams in this league or in all of sports where their fans are so connected to the team. And what I mean is, like, we're one. Mm-hmm. And even as I go back to it in my mind now, the feeling that I had when I saw the lights. So, and it's weird that I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it. And I don't know, Kristen, how you felt. Did you get to go to that game, the Colts game?
I didn't. So I actually was in the queue for both of those, and I watched them time out. So I missed them by within like 100 tickets. Well,
driving down Southwestern and seeing the lights on, like just seeing the stadium lights on, was goosebumps. Mm-hmm. And realizing for me that you're talking about a football team that's never met its fans. They're this crazy great football team, and Josh Allen is having like the season of his life.
Right.
The fans have never met this team, and this team has never met their fans. Like, it was otherworld as far as that goes. I mean, it was a very cool experience going to that first playoff game when we were allowed back in the stadium. I wish they would have packed. What we know now is they could have put all the people in there, but back then everybody was, there's still fear. We weren't sure what was going on. We didn't know what this COVID thing was. So I get it. I understand it, but man, what a moment in time that was. That'll live with me forever. So that's a moment. Seeing the stadium lights on that year for the first time was big. Knowing that that's where I was going. Right. So, yeah,
I felt the same way. I went to Kansas City that year because I couldn't get to the Buffalo one. So I went to the championship. And even though it wasn't our home stadium, and even though it was my first time in that stadium, there was just like, my heart was going a million miles an hour for multiple reasons for that game. But I was going a million miles an hour just walking in, same thing, seeing the lights, seeing the seats, seeing people in there. And it was just.
So you've been to KC. I know you didn't go and hang out with us at the playoff game this year. Did you go through any of the concourses? Because the concourse thing came up from Thomas.
I was there earlier.
Oh, you were there? You were there for the playoff game?
Yeah. I was there I wasn't there for week 5 this year, but I was there for the AFC Championship, and then I was there for the divisional.
Why am I retarded? Anyway, or just not very
I
smart.
don't know, because we hung out, Joe.
I'm just.
I
Anyways,
hung out with your daughter. Like,
my that's right. My point was where I was going with that. That you're right. You did. Where I was going with that is, did you walk through their concourses in the
Yeah.
100 level?
yeah.
They're carpeted.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
They have an outdoor stadium. It snows in Kansas City. I lived in Springfield for 2 years when I went to college. It snows there. Their concourses in the 100 level that are covered are carpeted. I was like, how do they keep these carpets clean? Like, I don't need carpeted concourses. Do you need carpeted concourses?
Right, I know. They had
what?
those in, I mean, obviously it doesn't snow in New Orleans, but they had those in New Orleans too.
wild.
There was
It was
concourses
wild.
that were carpeted there. And every time I see it, I'm like, this is bizarre. Like,
Bizarre.
It's just really
Very, very. I feel like I'm in an alley with concession areas and there's carpet on
Yeah.
the ground. Like,
if I
what is
remember
going on?
right, Atlanta had some too, and the new Atlanta one. But
Gotcha.
they were like, they've got section like lounges set up in the concourse where they've got like massive like 10 by 12 foot television screens with couches and like just
Right,
you know what I mean, like that's level 1, 2, and 3. We were on the 3rd level.
But in a dome, it kind of makes sense to have carpet. Outside,
Right.
it's just weird. Anyways, you've got a comment if you want to throw that up there. Yeah.
It's definitely different considering the Bills have troughs in the men's bathroom. So I mean, carpets.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
So I don't think carpets come in anytime. Well, maybe, I don't know. I am almost thinking, man, if they're going to keep to the Buffalo history, they're just going to bring the troughs to the new stadium.
You guys remember
Everywhere
when the
though.
bathrooms overflowed?
They're yeah.
Outside can you imagine if there was carpets in the Ralph for that?
They should have a history of things that happened, like the guy who rolled the railing and fell down the side of the upper deck. Yeah, they should.
Lived.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have Dave with another comment. 17 dog years in Buffalo would solidify the fan base as the most solid in the NFL. Putting that in jeopardy with gentrification is asinine. Absolutely agree. Again, like Joe's mentioned, I mean, it's tough to say. We're high level overview right now. This is kind of just first thoughts. You know what we're feeling. It's hard to say until we really get some true details. I don't know when we're going to see this stuff. That's the tough part. I feel like potentially it's within the next year, maybe year and a half. It's going to have to be because I know in the survey itself, there's options to prepay for your PSL, which for anybody who's watching, I know I didn't mention this. I'm assuming everybody knows what a PSL is, but for anybody that doesn't know what a PSL is actually a personal seat license. Basically what that means is that you are buying the right to own a specific seat. And with that specific seat, it's not in every stadium. I've actually seen a couple stadiums that don't allow this, but it does give you right of refusal in certain events. So like we've seen in, I want to call it the Ralph. It's always going to be the Ralph to me. I can't get in the New Era Field, the Highmark, whatever. It's always the Ralph.
Yep.
But, you know, with the Ralph, you know, we've had like, you know, the Rolling Stone, stuff like that. Basically what gives you the option of being able to buy those tickets first, resell them, keep them, do whatever you want to do with them before the general public has that opportunity. That's what a PSL is. But in terms of that, they have to have certain payment options.
Mhm.
And so we need to know what those prices are soon. To give people the option, because that's the other thing. And I talked with my wife about this earlier, and Joe, I'm sure you've mentioned it with your family. Kristen, I'm sure this is probably something that you didn't have the survey, but you're going to be looking into is kind of pre-planning for those PSLs. Start saving for those PSLs in the near future, because like everybody, we've all got lives, we've all got financial implications. But it's tough because I think you know, until we really know, there's going to be a lot of anxiety that goes into this.
But there's also levels. There's levels of commitment as it pertains to a fan. And it doesn't mean that fandom is different. You know, when you talk about Kristen and you talk about Leslie and you talk about just different people that, you know, are there at 7 o'clock in the morning or 6:30 in the morning. And I did that with them last year for the home opener. It's a different level of fandom than it is for somebody like me. My family, when I grew up, my family wanted to go to the football game, and that's it. So we live in Hamburg, and we would leave my dad's house at, I don't even know, 12:20. Like literally, that's not a joke. We would leave at 12:20 for a 105 game. We drive down Southwestern Boulevard. We would park on the left-hand side of Southwestern across the street from where Louis is. And then we'd walk in the stadium. right as the game was beginning. That was the culture that we had because we were there to watch the football game. As soon as the game was over, we would walk out to the car. I'd be home in 20 minutes. I'd be back in Hammer. Once you hit 7 corners at Southwestern and McKinley, like once you pass that intersection, we were like home in 10 minutes. Like it was super, super easy.
Right.
For me, the culture of going to games, I go to the games to watch the games and I enjoy the experience, but it's a whole different thing for Kristen and for Leslie and for Ashley and for people. It's just a whole different thing. So for me to get priced out of my tickets and watch the game on my couch, and I don't have to deal with doing my notes in the car while my dad's driving for my show, for my post-game show on Sunday night, it's almost easier. For Kristen, it's a different
lifestyle.
It's a different lifestyle. That's right.
You
And
know?
That is what
I love the tailgate. It's not that I don't love it. It's just not the culture that I necessarily grew up with. So
Right.
even this coming season, with all the COVID restrictions gone, I'm gonna tailgate probably for some of the games, but I know for a fact I'm not going to for all the games just because my lifestyle doesn't warrant that. It's not laid out. It's not planned already. Well, that game's a home game. Like I'm unavailable all day. How long did we sit last year after the home opener? We sat in the lot till what, 7?
I was
God,
gonna
that-
say, we
that
were
was a
there
rough
for
game to sit in.
hours. We were there
You
for a while.
we couldn't leave. Like there was no way to get out of the parking lot. It's like, all right, this is kind of and it was awful because we all expected the Bills to crush the Steelers and then they didn't. So it was super awkward. We were just like,
Yeah, right. Can we go yet?
what happened?
Yeah, and sorry I got distracted there for a minute. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know how much I trust this source, but I just got sent a copy of what looks like the Ravens schedule leaked today.
Really?
Yeah, about 15 minutes ago. And if this is true, it looks like we're playing the Ravens week 4.
Really interesting.
Mhm.
Hot off the presses.
Yeah.
Is
And
it
again, like I said, I'm not gonna source that one because I don't know if that's true or not. But it'll be interesting to see on Thursday if that was right, if this was a right leak or not. You know,
is
Right,
that
right.
is that away or home?
that's an away game.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll definitely be a good atmosphere. Actually, speaking of what you were mentioning with tailgating, that'll be another interesting point in terms of what they do, how they gravitate towards, keeping Bills fans kind of in the loop, what they do for the tailgating scene. I know that was a big thing about kind of keeping it away from downtown Buffalo, just because how they were going to mitigate, the fans being able to tailgate, having that open area. Kristen, have you visualized or thought what you'd like to see in terms, because I know you're part of the big tailgating scene there. Is there things that you've seen or you thought that you'd want to see?
By the way, it's all over Twitter that the Ravens schedule has leaked and they have the Bills playing in Baltimore on week 4. Sunday Night Football. So another primetime game for the Bills.
It is Sunday night. Wow.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that though, because I mean, if we're playing the Ravens, that's gonna be what, October? That's October. Well, it'll still be kind of warm down there,
Yep. Yep.
So like that's pretty decent. But I honestly love the way that after being to so many different stadiums at this point as well, I love the layout of Bills tailgating right now. It's easy, it's open to get from one tailgate to the next, whether it's just one loop around the stadium. And I honestly really hope that it stays the same and just kind of flip flops. I'm hoping that, the new stadium's going to go across the street. They're going to, take out, some of those grass hills and stuff like that by ECC and push some back parking lot that way. But I still want it to be kind of a circle. And then maybe we can just still cross over Abbott and tailgate. And, maybe they turn what is the Ralph now into just a massive parking lot there too. And I really think the setup is good. I want them to keep, I want it to still be close enough to the residential neighborhoods because, so many people just kind of make their money there as well. And people base some of their income off of that. So I really just hope it stays the same, but across the street.
There was a lot of inquisitive questioning from the Bills in that survey just about if you clicked. So they asked, if you're going to tailgate, or do you tailgate? Yes or no? Yes, I tailgate. So I clicked yes, just for the sake of it. And then it said, if you tailgate or when you tailgate in the Bills lots, or do you tailgate in private lots? I picked or both. And I picked private lots, which led to a whole bunch of other questions. And they were very much inquiring on why do you go to private lots and why do you not hang out with us? And you got to select a bunch of different options on why you don't, like ease of access, price, things like that. better atmosphere, things of that nature. And then there was an other box where you could put in other stuff, which I put ease of getting out. Like getting out of the stadium lots is impossible.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually something else they brought up was a potential like Bill's own parking lot tailgating area.
Right.
And whether you pay for it, that they said, do you want to pay for it or do you want it to be free? Which I feel is a very odd thing to ask anybody.
Right.
But there's the option of potentially having something probably within the Bills lots of a kind of like a Bills playground, where you could go and tailgate in there. They'd have, I don't know, cornhole or what have you, which I think would be nice.
I think I feel like they've kind of done that now, though, with that tailgate village, and it just feels like a swing and a miss.
That was a question too. If we provide areas like for pregame stuff with bands and stuff like that, are you interested? I was like, nope.
It's so weird because when you go to other stadiums, it's typically that Bills Mafia finds one lot, and it's not like people parking there.
Right.
It's like we just take over the entire lot. They put up the tables, and we all go in and do our thing. In Buffalo, you can't replicate that because the entire stadium is Bills fans. We don't need a designated spot. It's kind of like sticking a Mecca in the middle of what's already a Mecca. So it just makes sense to me to spend their resources or money doing that because it just doesn't get utilized that much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so closing thoughts. Joe, with everything going on with the stadium survey, what is your expectation or what do you hope to see in terms of pricing? At least what do you want the, PSE, Populous, Legends, what do you want them to do for fans? Or at least what do you expect for them to do for fans in terms of kind of catering more pricing wise towards them?
So to me, the pricing is going to be the pricing. I mean, we have lived in a luxurious space, and I use that word, intentionally, to not have to have paid premium prices for Bills tickets forever. Whether you want to blame that on the fact that the Bills haven't been good or weren't good for 17 years, or if you want to blame it on the market, whatever it is, we've lived in a situation where as Bills fans, we haven't had to pay a ton of money like a lot of other markets. We know where our prices fall compared to other markets. I just, even including that, just so everybody knows, I don't believe for a second that the Bills are the 31st smallest market in the NFL. I don't believe that at all. It's not statistically true. If you went to school for marketing and you learned about metropolitan statistical areas, you would understand that even though our TV market is Buffalo and it's not very big, our actual market is I think it's a 150-mile radius ring around the city, which includes Rochester, 1 million people, which includes Erie, Pennsylvania, 500,000 people, and includes Toronto, which is 5 million people. The actual MSA for Buffalo, the market for Buffalo for sports, is actually, I think, 13th largest in the NFL. That being aside, we've lived in a space where we've kind of had the opportunity to have cheap tickets. It's one of those things. The tickets are going to go up. The team is going to be better. And as the team gets better, the demand is going to go up for the tickets, which is going to make the tickets go up. So for me, the biggest thing that I don't want to see is I don't want to see them again. And I used the phrase already, create a Crystal Palace for the elite. That's not what this team is about. I don't think the players want that. I don't think the players want to be surrounded by a bunch of rich people wearing not suits, but like khaki pants and button downs to the football game. I think they want to be around the crazy because the crazy is what helps them win football games. Like, does that make sense? So for me, it's just more about that. It's more about staying in touch. And I went to school for marketing, so it's more about staying in touch and understanding who your people are, who your base is, who you're marketing to. They claim they've got a handle on it. They started out at $20,000 per seat, and the Bills confirmed it. That doesn't mean that that's where it's going to be, but that's kind of where we're starting. And we've started to see that number trickle down as far as for PSLs. PSLs are what they're going to be. It's the future. It's just the way things are done nowadays. So I don't have a problem with that necessarily. I just don't want to see what makes Bills Mafia great be removed from the stadium so that some dude can bring a business friend to a football game and they don't stand, they don't cheer, right? They're not paying attention. It's just, that's where I'm at. So that's my expectation. Just don't price us out.
Yeah, and Tim Graham had a great quote on that. He said, researchers worth their weight in touchdown confetti don't gather data by using numbers yanked totally out of thin air.
Right.
They're obviously trying to gather some information, see what's going to work, because at the end of the day, the Pagulas are not dumb.
No,
they
sure.
own multiple franchises: the Bandits, the Sabres, the Bills, the Amerks, the Nighthawks. There is a big footprint in the Western New York region, and probably the biggest is the Bills. And if you kind of displease their fans, it's going to be cataclysmic to their entire franchise. So you have to think that they know what they're getting into. Kristen.
Yeah, I'm similar to Joe, and also it sounds like to you as well. I think we need to look at it, or I think they need to look at it from almost like a logistics scenario, where we don't need anything super fancy. I mean, we're existing and loving a very, very bare bones stadium right now, especially if we're seeing what else is out there. I mean, we are as bare as it gets, but also because of that, I think the game itself is what matters to Bills fans. We're not there. I mean, we're there for the experience, but we can go to Vice after the game if I want to go have a nice dinner. What matters to me is that, we're not going to get a Super Bowl here. We don't have the infrastructure in the city. We would need, hundreds more thousands more hotels.
Thousands of beds.
Like the Super Bowl idea, we're not going to host a Super Bowl here. So
Never.
why spend, an arm and a leg to build a stadium that would be able to house a Super Bowl? We just need to be able to get in there and watch our team. And they have to remember that they are catering to a very, very blue collar market. I mean, that's what Buffalo is, that you don't have all those high rollers in here. So it's not, it's not Miami, it's not LA, it's not New England. They have to try and my head's not in the clouds. We know that those prices are going to go up, but I think that their biggest concern needs to be to keep that as low as possible, or else they're going to lose a lot of the fan base to being able to attend.
The funny part is Buffalo could have hosted the Super Bowl. The problem was 30 or 40 years ago, they just missed the mark. And to me, and I don't mean to rabbit trail, but it's the waterfront issue. Buffalo has the most underdeveloped waterfront in the entire country.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, but Canal Side is pathetic. It's a nice gesture, but it's pathetic. And what are they building out down in the Outer Harbor right now? Warehouses. Why are they putting warehouses on our waterfront? They should be putting hotels down there. That's what they should be building.
That's what I'm saying. Like, between the transportation and you're right, they're just missing the mark. We wouldn't have the public transportation for it. We don't have the lodging for it. Like, it's just not going to happen. So,
I've been asked that question just in case, for those who are listening to your show. What do you mean we don't have enough beds? Well, first of all, if there's a Super Bowl here, people in Buffalo aren't going to it. So it's 60,000 people who are visiting, right? So they're going to have some place to sleep. And that doesn't include the crews, the football teams, the staffs, everybody, the media. I mean, there's 10, 20,000 media members at the game. So yeah, it's just,
and that's the other part about that is I know people use, Jacksonville, because Jacksonville's metropolitan footprint is about the same as Buffalo. The only difference is they have water, and they brought in cruise ships as lodging, and that we don't have the ability to do.
And they've got developed waterfront, which we do not have. We had the pier. They tore it down.
Yeah.
Remember the pier? The pier was a great place to go.
You used to go party at the pier.
Right. They tore it down.
Where my first fake ID got me into the pier.
Oh boy. Fantastic.
Nice. Love it.
I'll tell you though, to your point though, Kristen, it is about the football. I mean, the biggest, like, I watched your birthday video where you had Marv Levy wish you a happy birthday. Totally in my mail truck, brought tears to my eyes. That was perfect. But it's true. It's, Buffalo sports, like when you watch the RJ night, it's all about the history. It's all about what came before us, and when you think about being at the Ralph, it's like just alone that you call it the Ralph, that's the history, and that's part of it. We don't need the glitz and the glam. We don't need all of these things. Sure, there are nice amenities that'd be beautiful to have, things that would add a certain level of, I don't know, just comfort, and I think that's something to say, that maybe Bills fans would take a little bit more comfort to the stadium, because there are games that are pretty brutal. Those seats are hard as bricks when it's freezing cold.
So somebody on Twitter today was talking about, and this was brilliant, and I never thought about this before, and I don't know why I did, because I think I'm a smart guy. He said, forget the overhead radiant heating. put heaters in the floors, like
Mhm.
heat the concrete in the floor. And keep
Oh,
your
you
feet
mean you
warm.
don't like using cardboard boxes
We
underneath your
bring it,
feet?
but I was like, that's genius. You're right. If my feet would not get cold, I'd be fine. Like
You'd be
heat the
fine.
floor. Heat the floor.
Yeah, that would be
Absolutely.
incredible. Like,
Yeah, I think there's
also
got to
would
be
need-
certain
They
things.
also would need shovelers. They could just turn the
yeah,
heater
right.
on.
Turn the switch on.
That'd be intriguing if that actually happens in the new stadium.
Right.
I think there's certain things that they'll probably bring, certain things that they'll they'll kind of keep in their back pocket and potentially add in. But it's interesting, and I'm excited to see what they got. But for the first ever Buffalo Late Night, guys, I got to thank you. I truly do appreciate both of you, and Leslie and Kevin. I appreciate you guys as well being part of this. If you guys want to go ahead and give your social media tags so people know where to find you.
Kristen first.
So you can find me at Kimmick, Kimm, my last name, Kimmick 86. You can also find us at Bills Mafia Babes on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. Tell them. I want you to tell people like how awesome the Bills Mafia Babes is. And
Do it.
But,
Yeah, let's hear it.
How much money did you guys raise last year?
So if we include that Tre'Davious White, which I like to do, if we include the run at Tre'Davious White for the Northern Louisiana Food Bank, Northeastern Louisiana Food Bank, I can never forget if it's Northern or Northeastern. We did about $216,000 in about 8 months. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Without
so-
that one, we're still topping in around like 70,000 just from the other
Amazing.
month.
It's still amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
You've done incredible work. Hello, Betsy. You've done incredible. She always finds her way into everything. You've done incredible work, not only with just fundraising, and charity work, but what you've done for women in sports. I know, Leslie was telling me she's nervous about, she was nervous about being on this because, her being on a camera. But her big thing was she got to be on it, and she did it. She got over her fear, and I think that's a big thing for a lot of people. There's a stigma around women in sports that women don't know sports. When I'll be honest, there's a lot of women that know a hell of a lot more than men in sports, and they should listen to more women when it comes down to it.
If I may jump in right there. So my daughter is playing flag football. So I don't think people don't know this. The Buffalo Bills and the NFL are sponsoring flag football in high schools for girls right now. And my daughter's on the Frontier team.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so awesome.
Yeah, she's the punter. Now my daughter and Kristen knows my daughter. My daughter is a classic rule follower, and she's incredibly intelligent, very smart, straight A student. She's the girl that goes to football parties and tells the men why something was a penalty and why something wasn't. Her coach today at practice said that they were learning the jet sweep. That was the play that they were learning. And the coach basically told the person that was running the jet sweep, and oh, by the way, if you get in trouble, you can probably just pass the ball. And Ken was like, no, you can't. He's like, what? She's like, you can't pass the ball forward twice. That's against the rules. You can't do that in any football.
Good for her.
Laying the smack down.
So
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're gonna have to let me know when one of her games is, Joe. I want to come check that out.
For sure. This week it's in Niagara Falls, but I think after that she's got a home game. But I will definitely keep you posted.
I want to come out and watch one of those.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a text. But so I am a proud friend of and supporter of the Bills Mafia Babes, just so everybody knows. I love everybody that's involved. And Kristen knows she has my heart, which is cool. But my name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. I am the host of the Overreaction Sports Show, which is a part of Buffalo Rumblings, which is a part of SB Nation, which is a part of Vox Media. I also host the Off Tackle with John Fina show, which happens during the season at 8:00 on Monday nights. And then I'm every week on with Jay Spence the King Wednesdays at 8:00 as well for the Hump Day Hotline. So follow me on Twitter and I'll interact with you. Kristen as well. Follow her because she's a lot of fun.
It's fantastic. Guys, I appreciate you. I am Thomas at the Thomas DeLoss. And then again, obviously for this channel at BFLO Late Night. I appreciate you all. Big shout out to my brother. He's been holding it down on the back end, doing some handy work. He's been lovely. Hope to see you guys again. Hope to have you guys on another time, sometime in the very near future.
Yeah.
Loved having you, and have a wonderful evening. Go Bills.
Fun. Go Bills.
The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Wow, that was out fast.